Hello, what is going on? Chris Fluke podcast episode number 67. I just recorded 66. This is the first time I'm hitting 2 in a row. Now, this is what we got here. Bob Hoffman's Daily Dozen. This book was written, now, first off, Bob Hoffman, over 600 trophies, Olympic coach, founder, the man behind York Barbell, where they got a Hall of Fame here in Pennsylvania, man. He's a writer. He was the chief part of the President's Council of Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. He wrote this book in 1958. Bob Hoffman is kind of the epitome of health back in these days, right? This book was sold for $1. And he said, with $1 here, you could live 10, 20, 30 years longer. Not only just live longer, have better quality of life over those years, right? Your quality of years will improve. It'll add years to your life and life to your years. I like that. Add years to your life and add life to your years. How's that for a mantra, right? Isn't that what our motivation should be with physical fitness and everything that we do? Now, the problem that Bob Hoffman was seeing back in the 1950s was that machines started to do the work that the human body used to do, all right? We're talking about machinery in the inside, farming equipment outside. The television set starting to be, invented. People are spending time in front of the television set. To his mind, he did not understand why this stuff was going on. Little physical work was being required to get these big, tough tasks done. And he said something here that I found to be pretty enlightening. History illustrates the fact that nations fell when the time came that they no longer used their muscles, but depended upon servants and slaves to do the work and fighting for them. When you don't have a stake in the battle, when you don't have some skin in the game, so to speak, Theodore Roosevelt style, if you don't have any skin in the game, your motivation to fight is not going to be the same. If you have everybody else doing the work for you, you're just sitting back cruising. What do you think is going to happen to your physical fitness? It's going to dip and drop. And you're not going to be prepared when you need to be prepared to do certain things, right? I don't remember what the line is, so to speak, but it's like, it was in reference to the military, and it went basically like, the drafted person's motivation is here, long story short, the drafted person, their motivation might not be the same as the person that volunteers. That volunteer wants to be there. The person that's drafted, they were kind of basically forced to be there, right? So the motivation for the volunteer is going to be higher. I think that's what Bob Hoffman's trying to illustrate here. When you think about all these great civilizations, all these great teams and organizations, you want the fight to get to where you want to get to. That's where your character is built. When you get to the top, that's where it's hard to maintain that high level of character, right? And it's hard to maintain that motivation when you start living like a king, right? That hunger, that drive. You see it with UFC fighters, you see it with boxers. A great example, I think it was Roberto Duran knocks out the man, Sugar Ray Leonard. He goes and he packs on 80 pounds. He's down in his native country, dancing, partying, drinking. It turned out to backfire on him as he wasn't able to get his body prepared for the next fight, right? So when we get some success in life, we need to be able to stay on that drive, stay on the right path. Nations fall when they no longer had to use their muscles. I like that sound, man. I like the sound of that. Like I was saying here, man, we're the richest society. This is Bob Hoffman back in 1958. The richest country, but also the sickest. We're spending too much time in front of the TV. We're not physically being active as adults. And then he goes on to say the youth copies elders, so it's on us as adults, it's on us as coaches to be the epitome of health, to be good examples for our children, to the kids that we coach. We need to show them that physical fitness is important. Oh, I work too much, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. Take care of yourself better, maybe you won't be tired. Go for a walk in the morning, get yourself up, get your body moving. You need to stay healthy, you need to be great examples for our kids in all areas of life, all right? Not only just physical fitness, right? In addition, man, any movement is greater than no movement. Bob Hoffman creates the Daily Dozen, which is the name of this book, right? His Daily Dozen, he had 6 stretches, the Daily 6. The Daily 6 is basically just bending the body, right? And getting the body loose, staying limber, staying supple, right? The Daily 6 is designed to keep the body young, to extend the span of life, to keep the body flexible, supple, and resilient. How's that sound? Flexible, supple, resilient. Resilient's a key word there, man. Being able to stay healthy and keep showing up every day back in the gym. And when we get into when we get into the details of the Daily Dozen here, the idea behind this stuff is not that exercise is supposed to make you look like you're some sort of, God. If it happens, great for you, right? The idea is going to be the motivation for this daily dozen is basically to just try to promote as close to a perfect state of health as possible. Overall, right? Mentally, physically, suppleness, resiliency, strength, all of that stuff. He wants to boost all that, right? So his daily 6, which are these stretches, basically he wants you to do a forward bend, right? A fold at the hips, right? He wants your hands up. He wants your knees locked, bending at the hips, touch the floor. Not a bad idea, right? Pretty good indicator of straight leg hamstring flexibility. In my opinion, you could also bend that knee and hit the hammies at a different spot as well. So that was number 1 there. He's got the forward bend. Then he has a twist. For his twist, he has a dowel across the shoulders, and we are just working that thoracic rotation. Another great one. People are usually locked up and tight there. His next one, a stoop. You know, basically this stoop is going to be hard to explain. If you look up the windmill, if you look up, basically you look up a kettlebell windmill, it's kind of very comparable to that. What is he doing? His one arm is going to touch the floor. So if your right arm, you say you got your stance will be hip width apart, your right arm reaches and touches the floor with only your right leg allowed to bend. So your left leg would be locked, your right knee bends as you lower and twist and try to touch the floor in between your feet. It's a pretty good rotational stretch, and you get this weird stretch in like that side hip area. But again, he calls it the stoop. Look up a kettlebell windmill, look up a windmill with a stick, a dowel across the shoulders. It's pretty comparable. The next one he has, stretch number 4 of his daily 6 is a turn. Arms locked overhead with your biceps in line with the ears. For some of us, myself included right now, early in the morning here, we're a little bit tight in that shoulder region, right? Some of us might not even be able to get our biceps in line with our ears. That's a bit of a problem. Anyhow, you could lock your hands, or you could just keep your hands parallel apart, shoulder width say, but the palms will be parallel. A lot of this stuff has a little bit of yoga feel to it, if you ask me. And basically there you could turn or twist, right? Hands above, twist or turn, bending side bends, man. You get a good stretch there, okay? After that, we have another bend, which is basically a squat, a knee bend, a deep knee bend. Exhale as you lower into the squat. Inhale as you come up. That's what he's looking for here. He wants your breathing, which is actually a little bit backwards than what it would be if you're exercising. And then lastly, the cat stretch, right? Getting that spine nice and tall, bending on all fours, right? Cat. And if you want to get that yoga feel, cat-cow basically, where you're coming open up that chest a little bit. So you're rotating this like spinal bend here too. That's great stuff, all right? Those are his daily 6, right? Maybe you wake up in the morning and you start checking that box, right? You hit your daily 6 first thing in the morning. His strength 6, which is something you might end up doing a little bit later in the day. These things, man, I think you could get pretty strong and you could look pretty damn good if you follow his strength 6, right? So his strength 6, curl. Straight bar, curl, all right? It's not really about building these big bulging biceps. This is a great pull exercise. You could get some arm action going there, but you also have this great core stability going on, as long as you're not rocking and cheating, okay? So he's got the curl. He's got the pull-up, which he calls a pull-up, but it's actually going to be an upright row from here. And he said athletes pull from the floor. So if you work with athletes, or if you got a basic understanding of like an Olympic lift, say, it's basically a high pull. So from the ground, use your legs and rip that bar up towards your head. That's a great total body power exercise, where some people have issues with Olympic lifts catching the bar like this. The wrist flexibility is tight. But with the upright row, you don't have to worry about that wrist flexibility, okay? So he's got a curl. He's got an upright row, which he calls a pull-up. He's got a press, right? The standing press. The king of all upper body pressing actions, if you ask me. All right? The military press. He's got the bent over row. All right? He's got the deadlift and the squat. Talk about the basics, right? You hammer these 6 things here, I think you're going to look pretty damn good. I might even try this at some point, and maybe once my kettlebell program's done. Another thing that he talks about here is if you ever train a group of athletes, his idea is to, when you're doing exercises like this, if you're working with another person, the guy that's going to use the least amount of weight goes first, all right? So let's say he's curling 65 pounds, and you could curl, let's just say he curls 45 pounds, say for his first set, cool. His next set's going to be 65, but because I'm a little bit stronger in the curl, that's going to be my opening weight. I'm doing 65 to start, then he does 65. So if you do the guy that's doing less weight first, you throw weights on over the top of what's already on the bar, and it just kind of makes the transitions a little bit smoother. So if you got a big group of 5 to 10 kids, say, on one bar, you're going to have to do that, right? Or if you got 2 bars going, you got 4 bars with 20 people, you start with the lightest person, and then from there, as the stronger people go, you start adding weights on. So for that weaker person who does number 1, his second set is going to be pretty much the opening weight for somebody that's stronger to them. I hope that makes sense. That's one concept that works really great with working with kids in larger groups, say like a high school football team. Another great idea was what he doesn't call them a complex, but it's pretty much what I would call a complex, is that you perform some of these moves without setting the bar down. So, you might you might do some curls, you might do some upright rows, then you might transition right into doing the overhead press, all right? You do all those exercises in a row, without setting the bar down. If you wanted to do all 6 in a row, how could you put that together? You could do, say, 3 deadlifts, all right? And then from there, after a deadlift, you could do bent over rows, all right? You could switch the curl is what's going to make it tough. Then you could do the high pull, right? And then from the high pull, you could pull the bar up. Then you could do your presses. After your press, you could do a back squat, okay? After that, jump the bar over, switch your grip up, do your curls, right? You could do all of those exercises in a row without setting the bar down. That's going to take about a minute. Your heart's going to be pumping. Your grip's going to be taxed. It's actually great. I mean, I introduced this to a couple girls that play Division I, lacrosse, and they're like, "Ooh, that's hard. I like that." Stuff like that. You get some good feedback from that. It's a great warm up. You do 6 moves all in one. Gets the body pumping through all these different ranges of motion with a light load, and it's going to kind of prep the body for, for the more intense work that's later being done. All right. Bob Hoffman's talking about that back in 1958. Good for you, man. So, to sum it up, basically, he's saying his daily dozen. Why would you do this, man? It overcomes the ravages of ill health. I like that word, the ravages. Great adjective there, great describing word. To build a weak, sickly body to strength. How about that, huh? My boy Frank Donnelly's anti-frail campaign. Him and Bob Hoffman are on the same page, 70 years later. If Bob Hoffman basically was like an oracle, man. He saw what was going to be happening here. To overcome injury, to reduce fat, to build an undeveloped frame. We got the ability to have big, strong bodies that could complete incredible tasks. Why don't we have that, right? Why don't we work towards building that? Now, as he's starting to get to the end here, we went through the basics of his exercise program, his daily dozen. He wanted this daily dozen to get to the point where you're walking around on the street and you ask somebody, "Hey, did you do your daily dozen today?" No, I only did the daily 6, blah, blah, blah. That's the conversations he wanted to have. He wanted this to be a widespread thing, a national phenomenon. He wanted everybody to be physically fit. And his rules for healthful living, in addition to doing the daily dozen, are this: proper exercise, the daily dozen. Walk as much as possible. Walk as much as you can whenever you can. If you can't run, walk fast, then slow. We're talking about interval training back in 1958. When intervals they became this in vogue thing, 20 years ago. Everybody thinks, wow, what a great idea. People have been doing what have been called fartleks in the, in the track and field community. Bob Hoffman's talking about walking fast and then walking slow. That's intervals. If you live in an area that has hills, you have natural intervals there where you're walking up a hill, your heart rate gets elevated, then you walk down the hill. Your body gets to relax. Then you get to walk on some flat ground. Then you have another incline. Stuff like that. That's a great way to get the body ready, right? Better nutrition, more fruits and vegetables, less sugars, starches, and fats. How about that, right? Less sugar, starches, and fats. Still applies today. Obtain sufficient sleep. 8 hours is what he's looking for sufficiency, okay? 8 good hours. How many of us are getting that? I mean, be honest, it's not a lot. 10 if you're young. If you're a high school kid, man, why in the world are you going to be up? Bob Hoffman, man, back in 58, he wants you getting 10 hours. If you're growing, if you're working hard, if you're playing sports, man, kids are in school, they have practice, maybe they have a club practice, they're barely eating, they're not getting enough sleep. It's like, no wonder things are going wrong for you. Make it a priority to get sleep, kids. It sucks sometimes that these kids got to get up at 7:15 to go to school. Their sleep cycles are a little bit, they start to change as their body's going through puberty. They might need to sleep a little bit later. Their sleep cycle shifts where they're probably not going to go to bed till a little bit later. So to get them up at 7, you're doing them a disservice. Anyhow, get to bed early, get off the technology, right? Get yourself some rest, shut the system down, recover, put on some muscle mass. It's the only way to really do it, right? It's the only way to recover properly. It's the only way to stay healthy. Maintain a tranquil mind. Mental stress will kill you, okay? He knew this back in 1958. None of us got the memo, apparently. Rule number 5, closer adherence to health rules. Eliminate or cut tea, coffee, white bread, sugar, highly processed foods, liquor, and tobacco. I could successfully say I do a decent job here. I do love my coffee, though, which is a bit of an issue. As of late, weather's getting hotter. Reading stuff like this, having conversations with Marisa, been able to kind of cut my coffee consumption down about half, which is pretty big because I was slugging massive amounts of coffee for years now. And with all this stuff, closer adherence to the health rules, persistence and training regularity is going to be necessary to your success. Try not to miss an exercise session. No matter what, if it's moving through this stuff lightly, you can't miss a session, all right? And rule number 6, spend as much time as you can in the fresh air and the sunlight. It will do you a lot of good and will provide a large amount of vitamin D. You know, get outside, play, work, garden. We started doing some gardening here. Just the simple act of going out and snipping lettuce and putting it in your bowl for a salad makes me feel like I'm doing something wonderful here. And it's literally, 4 minutes of just doing this. And lettuce is pretty easy to grow, right? Get a garden, man. Get outside, have a little bit of fun. Try not to be the hustle and bustle of doing this and that and all this other crap. Take some time to get outside and and have some fun. COVID-19, man, that hit us hard this past year, a little bit over a year now. And vitamin D, man, a lot of the people that were seriously hospitalized were deficient in vitamin D. When we look at the population as a whole, the population is deficient, all right? So it's just a part of the situation. We need to get our vitamin D levels up the best way. The easiest way to do it, get outside, let that sun soak in a little bit. Don't get burned, all right? You don't want skin damage, but you want to be able to soak in the sun here and get yourself maybe a little bit of color, but not too much color, all right? Soak that stuff in. And lastly, Bob Hoffman recommends this. Set a goal. Let nothing cause you to deviate from that goal. You must know what you want to accomplish. Then have the willingness to work hard, long, and intelligently towards that goal. How about that, right? We need to learn what hard work's all about. The best thing, when I see here, I'll see a young kid, boy, girl, it doesn't matter. I've got a rope in this gym here to climb. They set a goal. I want to climb that rope. The only way they climb that rope is if they train, if they consistently practice, and they try with 100% effort. You cannot half-ass a rope climb. You got to give it your all. And when you see a kid work on something for 5, 6, 7, 10 weeks, that's showing me that they're ready, that they understood what hard work is about, that things just don't happen overnight, right? And I think that's the best lesson that can be given. And it's a wonderful thing to see. That stuff we could kind of extrapolate it to challenges later in life too. You set a goal, you do everything in your power to accomplish that goal, and you work. Bob Hoffman, Daily Dozen. The book is only about 20-something pages here. I could have went on a little more detail on that, but you could get it by your own self, is what my daughter would say. All right, get that book, read it. 1958 rules still apply today. Get that body moving. Let's stay supple. Let's stay resilient. Let's get strong. Peace, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.